when the cannibalism started.
What was that?
More tales of the Men in Black. From Casebook on the Men in Black by Jim Keith. September 26, 1967, a woman named Shirley saw a silver disc-like object hovering outside the back windows of her home. Her doorbell rang. When Shirley answered, she met an Indian woman in a long, shimmering black gown. "Hello, Pat," the visitor said with a painfully large grin. "My name is Shirley," Shirley said against her will. "I'm sorry. I meant Shirley. Can I have some salt? I need to take a pill." Shirley brought out a box of salt and handed it to the woman. She consumed a handful of salt and forced a pill down her throat. They both watched as the humming from the UFO increased and the UFO took off over the house and into the distance. The woman in black left, and Shirley had bouts of intense nausea. Later that night, two men in old-timey black coats and hats pulled up in front of Shirley's home. She thought they were priests. They set up a camera with a massive red light on top of it and took pictures of Shirley's home, and then they left without turning on their headlights. Secrets. November 22nd, 1967. The Edward Christensen family and a relative were traveling north of Maryville, New Jersey, and saw a large sphere of light, glowing red, green, and white, fall from the sky. They called the Air Force and were heavily questioned about what they saw because they had assumed they had seen a crashed airplane. They were interrogated heavily by several different officers who kept calling back through the night. January 9th, 1968, the Christensen family got a knock on the door. 17-year-old Connie Christensen said, "It was the strangest man I've ever seen."
"Does Eric Christensen live here? I'm from the Missing Heirs Bureau. Mr. Christensen has inherited some money."
The man was at least 6'3", around 300 pounds, and couldn't fit through the front door. He said his friends called him tiny. He had a Russian fur hat, a black suit with thin material not suited for the weather. His head was shaved, but not properly. There were patches of hair untouched, and his eyes bugged out of his skull like thyroid eyes, one of them appearing to be glass. He wore very thick-soled shoes. His pants were too short, and when he sat, it revealed he had a green wire coming out of his sock and going into a brown spot on his leg. They asked if he wanted something to eat, and he said,
"I'm on a diet, but in 10 minutes I'll need a glass of water."
10 minutes of questioning them about specifics of Eric Christensen's body, tattoos, birthmarks. Later, his face became beet red, and he requested the water. He took a large yellow pill and he went back to normal. And when he left, he walked out the door, hailed a large black 1963 Cadillac that pulled up with no driver, and it pulled away with no headlights on. Secrets of the Men in Black.
Wow, that's great. There was also Robbie Coltrane from Nuns on the Run.
Very good.
Little known fact.
Very, very
everyone.
good.
Welcome to the last podcast on the left. A creepy beginning to today's episode. Yeah. I am Ben Kissel. That is Marcus Parks.
Hello.
And we have the creepy scribe himself, Henry Zabrowski.
I am so terrified of my thoughts since doing this
I think
series.
we could just end the sentence there.
All night I'm having dreams of Men in Black. Are you having Men in Black dreams, Marcus?
They ended. I was having them. Remember I had the dream where me and you were interrogating a man in black as Carolina slept next to us?
Yeah, you told me that one. I had a dream last night about another story that I had read about the Men in Black, which was that I woke up to see a large man, Kissel size, in a flannel shirt staring at me with a bowl cut at the end of the bed, just staring at me and then dematerializing.
Honestly, that was me from 17 years ago. You met freshman in high school Ben Kissel. Whatever he did to you, I apologize.
Are you a time cop?
Are you a time cop, bro?
Maybe. All right, everyone. We are on to part 2 of our series about the Men in Black. Can't wait to learn some more.
Can I say this at the very beginning? Okay. Y'all gonna need to open up that mind of yours
Uh-oh.
with some brain lube.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is that you need. For me, it's a stanky glass of whiskey, a couple of edibles, and a big old thick old joint. And I think that you should try some of that before settling in to what we're about to run you through.
Maybe if you're going through sobriety, some ginseng.
Yeah.
Have a little ginseng. I don't know if that opens up the mind or not. Caffeine.
Oh, my mind is always open, man. I don't need no chemical stuff. Well, I mean, many years of hallucinogen abuse,
Right.
which kind of opened it for a while, like
Right.
kind of
So open
permanently
that now it's
opened
kind of
it.
being taped back
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
It's like it's sort of like the hardcore championship belt
Yeah.
that they had in the WWE. It's shattered and then it duct taped back together. To
It's a door that's
sort
kind
of resemble a belt.
It's a door that's hanging off its hinges, and now it's just kind of leaning up. And
Yeah.
it's like you and your buddies call it a door, but really it's a flap.
Yeah, you have to pick up the door, move the door, then put it back after you
Yes.
enter the building. But no, it is a door. It is
It's a door.
So before we get to this week's episode, we got to acknowledge our second source, Casebook on the Men in Black by Jim Keith. It is fantastically written and a very interesting book, even though admittedly it can be very confusing at times.
Okay.
Maybe for you, you plebe. All I do is understand the mind-bending world of the Men in Black.
So our last episode ended with a discussion of tulpas and the possibility that the modern-day Men in Black were essentially born from the imagination, intelligence, and fear of the proto-nerd Albert Bender.
You know what I tell all the ladies? A UFO boy's imagination is just stronger than the other boys.
I don't think you should tell that to anyone.
yeah.
But I would like to say I know what a tulpa is. It's a image conjured up
Yep.
solely from the mind.
Well, I mean, not
Very good.
necessarily. I mean,
You know what?
A tulpa.
Honestly, that's farther than I ever thought he'd get.
Thank you. Got it.
but one thing to keep in mind with the Men in Black is that they are by no means a uniform group. They come in many different shapes, sizes, and races with different powers and influence.
Really?
But again, they all share the same thing. Secrets.
Secrets are no fun.
Can you choose to be a fat one or a thin one or a tall one or a short one?
No, you're given your case from birth.
Oh, okay.
So on this episode, we're mostly going to cover the Men in Black through the lens of a word whose etymology almost perfectly describes our subject. The Latin roots run the gamut, concealed, hidden, beyond the realm of human understanding. And the word is occult.
Word of the day.
Now, the 20th century is by no means home to the first sighting of the Men in Black. The Men in Black have been around for centuries, most notably in 15th and 16th century Europe, and always in cases involving the most popular paranormal phenomena of the time, witchcraft.
Ooh.
See, Men in Black to me, they're like the David Bowie of the occult world, where they fit every fashion. They every single
Right.
phase it goes through occultism, they're right there. And so a part of it, it's like last episode, we try to explain one of Nick Redfern's biggest theories is that they are tulpas. We're going to talk about this episode specifically is how they are an extension of the occult matters that have been around since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
And that the Men in
Right.
Black have always been there, step by step, fucking pocket to pocket.
Yeah.
Human race, dick to dick, just us together,
Right.
crab walking, slam next to each other like a couple boys learning how to hold each other up for the first time on a summer vacation when you run away from your parents for the first time,
Well.
while they're off getting hammered on the cruise.
That's a strange way to make a teepee, but tulpa, that's something that's conjured up.
Yeah?
With just the mind there. You guys might not have known that. But this is why you don't let me do research.
We don't let you do it.
That's the problem.
You get one nugget of knowledge, and just all of a sudden you're the most arrogant person in the room.
Sledgehammer. Sledgehammer.
Agrarian. Yes.
So the first recorded sighting of a man in black, at least as far as Europe goes, occurred in France in the year 1490, when occult practitioners claimed to trample crucifixes as they worshipped, quote, a tall, dark man. Ooh. The next sighting came 30 years later, again in France.
It's in France.
It's in France.
In this instance, two shepherds told a tale of a tall, dark man who called himself the Devil's Bondsman.
Ooh, that's a great nickname.
Oh, yeah, and bondsman, that's an archaic term for slave.
Oh, so he was the devil's slave.
Yes, he was the devil's slave, and it's a little, like, kinky.
Yeah.
Like, a little bit. It's a little, like, bondsman's a good new term for, like, the sub-dom
Right.
world, if you want to use it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So one shepherd knelt and offered fealty to the slave and his dark master. Then, supposedly, the man soon after killed and ate 5 people.
Yeah, you did. Fuck yeah. But you can remember this. If you've seen The Witch, right? A part of what made The Witch so good is that they took transcripts from actual court hearings during the time, like during what we would now know as the famous witch hunt, right? Like during that whole time period. But oftentimes the devil was synonymous with a man in leather pants and a leather vest and a fancy black hat on, which, I mean, just feels like it's the one gay of the village from the 18th century, like figuring out how to work it, like figuring out how to make everybody his slave.
Breaking the law.
But that's what he was.
Right, sounds like a little Judas Priest vibe. That was a real old country buffet that he had. Tulpas. It's actually conjured up.
Well, of course, both shepherds were burned alive at the stake for consorting with the devil. Over 100 years went by without another recorded sighting. But in 1645, the infamous witch Isabel Gowdy of Scotland described a man suspiciously similar to some modern men in black. Now, we know that the witch trials in Europe and America were by and large led by uptight establishment figures suppressing and murdering groovy ladies as well as a few groovy dudes. But there may just be something hidden in Isabel Gowdy's testimony.
The whole thing with the witch trial, right? It was all because they were taking the bad wheat, right? Bad flour. It was that kind.
Well, that's
Ergot.
the-
That's one story is that the wheat supplies would get contaminaminated with fungus.
I would
and
like to
balls.
nibble on that, though, and just see what that trip is like. I bet you,
of
if you
course.
know you're taking it, I bet you it would be a pretty good time.
I think it's supposed to be one of those like terrifying trips.
Terrifying.
Like the trip that Tex Watson had that caused him to murder Sharon Tate and all the other people.
Have you ever had angel trumpets?
No, that sounds like a horrible thing that you might get after eating too many grains. There's the stool joke.
Wow.
Wow.
No, but the idea is that it creates a very...
It's July 5th. Okay, can I just clarify? It is July 5th right now. We all had a July 4th. We celebrated our freedom.
We all had a great
And then-
time last night.
Now emphasis on dumb. Okay, hello.
Dumb. It's doing good. We're doing good, though. We're strong. But angel trumpets are a naturally growing hallucinogen in Florida that are like these flowers that you pick, and they create very vivid visual hallucinations where you do stuff like your bed looks like it's all covered in cockroaches, so you go and you get the bleach from underneath your kitchen, like you get your bleach underneath from the sink, and you cover your bed in bleach, and then you set it on fire and shit like that.
Oh, I see. So you don't want it. You don't want it.
No.
Okay.
Well, this is a quote from Isabel Gowdy's trial.
His members are exceedingly great and long. No man's members are as long and as big as thee. And I found his nature as cold within me as spring well water.
What is she describing there? It seems a little phallic.
It's his. No,
Is
it's
there
his
just a
fingers.
It is phallic, but she's describing members like limbs.
Oh, I
yeah,
see.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Because he doesn't have like a butt. Okay.
She was fucking it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
At the
I
same
see.
time. That is true. Honestly, she was fucking it.
All right.
Well, this testimony mirrors the long-limbed men in black with the cold touch that we'll discuss later on in detail. But that is very, very much a men in black detail.
Long limbs, cold touch.
Long limbs, cold touch.
What they talked about last time, we talked about a little bit, like jointless wrists.
Yeah.
They look like Gumby. They have like no knuckles. They're all very flat. They look like they've been made by a factory.
Yeah.
Okay.
And furthermore, even though the quote-unquote confession of Isabel Gowdy is likely a fabrication made under duress, it still ties into Men in Black lore.
Okay.
See, the fact that the long-limbed, cold, dark man lived in Isabel Gowdy's imagination speaks to the genetic memory of humanity. See, pitch-black, long-limbed figures, for some reason, speak to a primal fear within us all. I mean, this whole thing survives even to this day in horror movies. I mean, from the Xenomorphs of the Alien franchise to like 21st century creations like Slender Man and the Babadook.
Right.
Like, there's just something about like these. It's the shadows that terrify us.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And Slender Man, we were going to bring this up last episode because in the end, like, in a way, it seems that Slender Man is a mirror slash kaleidoscope version of the original Men in Black visions. And that now, like, I would almost consider the Slender Man to be real. Like, we had 2 people stab a girl, like the Slender Man stabbings case. Several other people have committed crimes in the name of Slender Man, and I don't really understand what makes it any less real. Like, that to me is the perfect example of a tulpa.
It's because people, when they're young, their perfect idea of a man is tall and thin, like Curtis Cobain or a series of other people, and I'm a little sorry I don't fit the fucking mold. The tulpa was created by a bunch of 13-year-old girls, and I'll tell you one thing, when you get older, you like them fat.
You like it because you can keep a fat man.
You can keep
a fat man around, and he's
Feed him.
thankful, and he's very excited to be there. But a part of it is that I think that what you're saying, while ignorant, is also true.
I'm onto it.
But a part of it is that the 13-year-old sexual fantasy, which is what made all of the weird lemon slash fic about Slender Man real, it's like, it's a part of it. It's like they are sexually identifying with Slender Man, but the problem, like a tulpa, is that it eventually grows to have its own fucking agenda and turns and becomes something else.
Like the robots in Westworld, which is a series that I'm watching and referencing on a regular basis.
Every time you have either a microphone or you're on stage, you find a way to shove Westworld into it, but it doesn't ever make any sense. It doesn't.
Episode 5, Season 1.
I mean,
2 years old. Series is 2.
I don't know.
I mean, one of the things we're trying to say is that the Men in Black may have always been tulpas, but they were created collectively by the primal fears of humanity. And the tales that we just told are by no means the only appearances of Men in Black in the witchcraft era. In 1730, in Norway, a 13-year-old girl claimed that 6 years before that, she and her grandmother had attended a secret meeting with Satan by way of pig transport.
Yeah, dude. Just took the pig bus.
I mean, I've been in some bad Ubers before. What is a pig transport?
Can you imagine a 13-year-old girl pulling up to you in a pig, be like, "Hi, what you doing? Want to get on my pig cart and go meet the devil?"
Yes, I have to.
Yeah?
I think so. Wow.
And Satan had brought along 2 companions, whom the grandmother had referred to as, quote, grandfather's boys.
Ooh, that is a wonderful series on X videos right now.
I don't know.
And all 3 of them were dressed all in black.
Okay.
Now we're going to see, but again, we're going to see a very common trope with Men in Black as well. A lot of times they visit in 3s. We're looking here is that the grandfather's boys, quote unquote, not his testicles, were actually a part of the unholy trinity of Satan with his 2 lieutenants, who often spoke of in folklore and echoes the modern day Men in Black, who often show up like that.
But I never heard of them hanging out with a pig, though, before. This is the first time I'm hearing about the pig.
Well, with all the witchcraft stuff, you know, things with witchcraft tend to get a little blurred.
Are pigs big in witchcraft?
Yeah.
Pigs?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
All animals are. Well, goats specifically.
Yeah, I think the
Yeah.
goat, yeah.
But pigs can also have a pretty big part to play.
Okay.
Why not? You anti-pig?
I'm not anti-pig.
Yeah, you
I'm
anti-pig
so
here?
pro-pig, it's like ridiculous. I almost stopped eating them.
But a part of it is that the pigs are also smart enough to know I need a job. And like Uber drivers now, it's like a great job in between things, carting 13-year-olds back to the grandfather's boys.
Oh, yeah.
Which he's done several other times. But this is a part of also the myth here. So this is, remember, when tulpas, we were talking last episode about tulpas, part of that comes from Albert Bender's first vision of Men in Black. And that's a more modern idea of where the Men in Black come from. But what if instead, what we're seeing here is that all of these comparisons of the Men in Black to the original visions of the devil show that Men in Black may in fact have a more paranormal beginning, even more so than tulpas, because tulpas is just the creations of our own fucking mind. Yes, it is paranormal in the fact that maybe you want to say that ritualistic activity and paranormal rituals and stuff like that, like the idea of talking to the other, is actually future technology that we don't really understand. So technically, then it's science, right?
Right.
How far have I gone?
Well,
How long have I been talking?
You got to the word science.
there it is. Might be a medical condition, but
But what if the Men in Black really just are what we talked about with aliens and gnomes and fairies and all that shit too? It's just the embodiment of everything that is the other that has been forever, and essentially they are more attached to like an entity that's poked its way from the other side into this world.
Is it a really big pig that you get inside of?
No,
Or you
it's
get on
not an
top of
actual
the
car.
pig?
She's riding a pig.
Oh, I see.
I mean, it's like a farm pig. I mean,
Oh, okay.
farm pigs. You ever seen like actually
No,
been in
I've
the
seen
presence of a farm pig?
Big pigs.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get it. Okay.
Yeah, you can easily fit a 13-year-old and her grandmother on the back of one of them big pigs. Now, Men in Black, they can also be harbingers of doom. This is from an account written in 1682.
In Brandenburg, Germany, there appeared in 1559 horrible men, of whom at first 15 and later on 12 were seen. The foremost had beside their posteriors little heads, the others fearful faces and long scythes, with which they cut at the oats, so that the swish could be heard at a great distance, but the oats remained standing.
Just feel like they're making fun of their, like, country folk.
No, dude, it's, man, Kissel, pop out for a second, right?
I popped out.
How I know you are. I see it. Put it back. You're driving along in a cart, right? Yep. Come on, Martha. Martha, you dead yet? No, we're getting you to the hospital. Only 3 days away. Yep. Looks over. There's just a field filled with these dudes in black robes and scythes hacking at wheat that's not getting hacked. They're just like slicing through it, and they're just doing it like it's fucking a Black Sabbath fucking album cover.
So they're happy.
Just do the shit, and then you drive past. They're not happy.
Oh, they're not.
very mean looking. And then the whole town dies of the plague.
Yeah, because that's
Right.
exactly what happened. Right after people saw these figures, the Black Death swept through the area.
I just hope I get my mother to the fucking hospital.
Your mother's got the plague.
She's got the plague? Oh, man, you know, this is... Man, it's tough creatively thinking.
Now, the links between these manifestations and modern-day Men in Black may seem somewhat tenuous, because after all, the color black has long been associated with evil. But appearance is not the only thing these occult practitioners of the past share with modern UFO lore.
Okay.
For example, something was written in 1645 in the Laws Against Witches and Conjuration that sounds suspiciously similar to the experiences of modern alien abductees. It was written that the devil leaveth marks upon their bodies, sometimes like a blue spot or a red spot like a flea biting. 2 decades later, a witch named Christian Green said this quote, that he was informing on another witch. He said,
The man in black pricks the fourth finger of her right hand between the middle and upper joints, where the sign yet remains.
Now, attentive listeners of our alien episodes will remember
Don't criticize the non-attentive listeners.
yeah,
because
I
it's
think
a little bit
Marcus is
difficult to
correct.
follow along. I don't think
You know,
we need to
you have to
chastise
listen.
those who are like also busy baking and they have to focus on something slightly different than alien abduction.
Listen, if you are a true student of the UFO nature, if you are a true, I would say, visioneer of the UFO knots, you understand that you're going to have to reread most pages of what you read several times just to begin to understand it. And then also same thing with podcasts or interviews about aliens.
Right.
Is that it requires you to listen to it many, many times.
That's like when your teacher would come in and be like, for those that did the homework, this class should be a breeze. And it's like, well,
Exactly.
I am in for a rough ride.
yeah, well, the teacher was correct.
The teacher was a jack. I'm not even going to go into it.
Well, I know I always know that when a teacher walked in and they said that, I would always said, very good. Looks
Yeah.
like Marcus will be getting a thumbs up
We
today
all
in
can't
class.
graduate top of our 12-member class.
Well, anyway, attentive listeners of our alien episodes will remember that oftentimes abductees return home with marks upon their bodies. And those marks sound suspiciously like the devil's nips of yore.
Yeah, man, devil's nips. Like mine, man. I got big pink old devil's nips, man. But a part of it is, but it's true, right? That is, we're going to see again and again, Jacques Vallée. who talked about this endlessly. That we're connecting it back to the UFO nature of the Men in Black. It is every single one of these experiences where people go to another location. There's oftentimes they are also accompanied by weird smells, blue light, which was actually done a lot of times in ancient rituals where they would cover their torches in pitch that would make the flame that when you light it would make it blue. So a lot of times it's like that's also connected to UFO activity. And then getting scoops and implants is another part of alien activity and abduction activity that has been going on since the beginning of time.
Scoops
and also Aleister Crowley.
Scoops and implants sounds like a very bizarre ice cream / cosmetic surgery restaurant /
Actually,
hospital, I guess.
It's fantastic, and you should save them for when we retire to Tempe, Arizona, because that's where the real alien money is to be made.
Yes. When I think of devil's nips, I think of a very meaty version of those really crappy fireworks snakes, where it just sort of like unrolls and like just kind of pink tubes of.
Interesting.
Thank you.
Well, here's another example.
July 5th. I'm going to point that out once again. No one. Anyway.
Here's another example of a link between UFO lore and witchcraft. The testimony of Tituba, who infamously testified at the Salem witch trials in 1692, said that...
Stop giggling, kids. Stop giggling. It's a woman's name.
Is it Tituba or Tituba?
I think it's Tituba.
Tituba. Well, she said...
God damn it.
No, all right.
Well, she said that she met a tall man with white hair wearing black clothes, and that the tall man was joined by, quote...
Another thing, Eddie. It goes upright like a man. It hath only 2 legs.
Ooh.
And Jim Keith suggests that this duo may have been a man in black accompanied by a Sasquatch.
Yeah, fucker. Yeah, buddy.
Hold on a second.
Listen.
Wow. Was the
Remember-
Sasquatch wearing a suit too?
You just guys, which is incredible because they should go by Joss A. Bank because that's where you get all your clothes.
No, I am now officially too fat for Jose Bank and Men's Warehouse, which is a pun, which Henry alerted me to in Philly.
I can't believe that blew your mind so
It's a
hard.
pretty big deal. No, I am now Rochester big and tall solely and forever.
Cool.
Congrats, man. I want you to get a pitch work for them, and I think it would be incredible.
I would love to.
But you scoff, of course, Kissel, because you didn't do the reading. But
No,
if
I
you
did
do
it.
look at many cases of UFO activity, Bigfoot, poltergeist activity are often all wrapped up into one. You look at the Bridgewater Triangle. You looked at what happened with Mount Shasta. You look at, there's a lot of different places. Skinwalker Ranch has quite a bit of the same activity. Cryptid, UFO, alien stuff, and ghost activity all smashed together in a big old cum bottle.
All right, I just didn't
spooky
realize
activity.
I didn't realize the Sasquatch and the Men in Black were a duo. That's a movie I'd see.
That is definitely a movie I'd see.
Yeah.
But yeah, all this stuff shows up in when UFO flaps occur. Yeah, flaps, that's like the term for when like UFO activity occurs in one location for like an extended period of time.
Wow,
It's also the sound when Stanton Friedman runs up a flight of stairs. Not to malign Stanton Friedman. We had him on the show. He's a friend of the show now.
UFO flaps. I call that. Remember bingo wings?
Yeah.
I got some bingo wings. I'm gonna call those UFO flaps from now on.
Now, even though the Salem witch trials were almost certainly just mass hysteria coupled with people yes-anding each other until a guy got crushed with a big rock,
Yeah.
isn't it more fun to think that maybe, just maybe, Sasquatch was there too?
Come on, guys. Let's have fun with it.
Everything is more fun. Yeah. It's like you could put
fun.
Sasquatch in a series of horrific historical events, and it would make them more fun.
Tell any
Absolutely.
story, and then at the end add, and Sasquatch was there too.
Yeah.
And then-
Absolutely. Cut to Trump, Kim Jong-un, talking North Korea capital, like all talking stuff. Cut over. Bigfoot's making pad thai in a big wok. Like next one. Just being like,
Sasquatch was there
too.
Yeah, that's great.
chef's hat on. You know what I mean?
Everyone
He's
just
also
cut 15
he's one
minutes.
of the Secret Service members. You know what I mean?
Now, it seems that Man in Black activity either died down or went completely unreported in the 18th and most of the 19th century. And while it could have just been that we finally moved past the witch hunt phase of Western civilization, I mean the literal witch hunt phase,
Horrible stuff.
something interesting happened near the turn of the 20th century. Although they were not traditional G-men, hat and suit men in black. MIBs started popping up in Scotland and England.
Ooh.
In 1901, a woman in Scotland saw a group of 10 men dressed in black seemingly performing a ritual around a coffin on which a set of bagpipes laid.
I think this reminds me of like Naked Gun, where he shoots a bunch of people who are performing Shakespeare in the park. What if it was just a funeral? Could it be a funeral?
Yes, absolutely. They could have just been very into the bagpipes, because all it takes is for one man to be like, beating me with me pipes. They're like, are you sure? You're like, you got to do it in all of your wear black. It's the only way I like to see it, because it's slamming.
And 3 years later, strong poltergeist activity broke out all over the British Isles, and 4 people spontaneously combusted in the year 1904 alone.
Jeez.
And a year after that, a young girl was visited 3 nights in a row by a man in black. The girl said the man gave her a message that she dared not repeat, an experience that was echoed half a century later by Albert Bender.
But also, most abduction scenarios, there is normally, in the stereotypical abduction scenario, there's a section of the scenario where they are given secret knowledge, and the aliens are like, well, you can't share this with anybody, and we'll know, because, what? We're aliens.
We're aliens, yeah. They know a lot.
So what happened at the turn of the 20th century?
So what happened?
Well,
Tulpas, I know what they are.
well, it could be that one man is responsible for all of this, or at least all this beginning. There's one man who may have opened a door, just a crack. A door that may have somehow been shut by persons unknown 200 years earlier. And the man who may have reopened it is Aleister Crowley.
Holy
And that's him playing the bass.
Right.
Him playing metal bass, which would be fucking cool as shit. Naked from the waist down, completely hard. Beautiful head with a fucking turban on, just like, oh man, I'm falling real in love with Aleister Crowley.
I don't know. How did he reopen it between his orgies and all of the drugs and the drinking?
We're gonna get into it, man.
Okay.
Now, Henry turned me on to a book called The Secret Rituals of the Men in Black. And that book attempts to connect the titular characters to that one time in 1904 when, on his honeymoon in Egypt, Crowley made contact with a being called Avos. And Avos then dictated to Crowley the Book of Law, which serves as the central sacred text to Crowley's religious philosophy of Thelema, thereby kicking off a new stage of spiritual evolution known as the Aeon of Horus.
I think you did mispronounce it. It's the Book of Horny Law, which we really do have to clarify that.
Yeah, it's just Aleister Crowley with doing the whole, like, dick in the box of popcorn on the very cover. Yeah.
However, I read the book and failed to understand any of it.
Okay.
Or how it actually connects to the Men in Black, because if I remember, they talked more about a fish man in that book than they ever did about the Men in Black. The Men in Black are mentioned like 4 times. So maybe
Henry has a very skeptical look on his face here. I think we have a rebuttal.
well, no, that's the thing. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying I didn't understand it. Just because I didn't understand it doesn't mean that it doesn't make any sense.
Well, no, don't applaud that, because that's not...
You get an applause for that.
That's not necessary. If you don't understand it, it doesn't make any sense.
No, that's true, because that's the thing, is that you could understand something that I don't understand, but it still makes sense to you. Yeah. And there are many things that I understand that you definitely don't understand that make sense.
Oh, please. It's like because I refuse
Kissel likes the
to
taste
live
of
in a
Bud Light
world
Lime.
of lies. And I don't drink Bud Light Lime.
He enjoys
you
the taste of
started
it,
this
which is
li-
a mystery.
That's a tulpa. That is a tulpa. They are conjuring up images of me with Bud Light Limes. It's not happening.
I will always remember the sentence. I will always remember you sucking on a tall boy Bud Light Lime going, it's like a margarita, except I got it in a can.
No, you fucking dick. No, that is not. I've never.
And then, oh my God, and then after you said that, they started selling margaritas in a can. So that means that you very possibly, through your love of Bud Light Lime,
I don't like or love or even drink Bud Light Lime. It tastes like poison.
Someone doth protest too much.
Oh my God.
Well, Henry, what is this book?
Okay. A part of it is that it's technically a sequel to Secret Rituals of the UFO Knots. It's by Alan Greenfield, who is a paranormal researcher and magic ritual master. It's very difficult. A part of it is when I read Secret Rituals of the Men in Black was that I realized just how far out of my depth I am when it comes to magical learning. What he says is that the Men in Black are part of it's essentially like a group that are wizards from back in the day that have been around. They're like entities that are a part of the original, quote-unquote, the secret chiefs. They're these entities that come from the other side, essentially lower daemons, right?
Yeah.
But a part of what Secret Rituals of the UFO Knots, which is his first book, that was really the first book. It was printed in like 1996. It was done in a series of lectures and printed and the beginnings of the internet. It was also like heavily like in the weird backlogs of the internet. That these are the first people to say that the Golden Dawn and Freemasons and all this shit and the ultimate masters they were speaking to were actually aliens. So what he is saying, he's connecting the Men in Black. That is where, obviously, the Men in Black thing is kind of just the hook for that book.
Yeah.
But a part of what it is explaining how when you do modern ritual now, they consider the fish people, which is Oannes, which is this group of, essentially, those are the people, the weird, amphibious group of aliens that were talking to the original group of Freemasons that started everything. They're the gatekeepers of